Hello everybody, Maven here, and I think we can all agree that Esoteric is a god gamer. They solo every Grandmaster in every season on every class. They've soloed every soloable raid encounter. They've beaten every boss in the Soul series and every Souls-like game on the hardest difficulty without taking damage. So they're one of the godliest gamers in the Destiny 2 community. Now, why are we talking about Esoteric? Well, because today's build comes from them. A few months ago, they posted a video soloing the Birthplace of the Vile Grandmaster on Prismatic Hunter using the exotic class item, combining the perks of Inmost Light and Cyrtarachne's Facade. Now, I like to give credit where credit is due, and I would link the video if I could, but unfortunately, I think they took it down because I searched for it and I could not find it. But still wanted to shout out Esoteric for this one. So unfortunately, since the video's gone, I couldn't really rebuild the build like mod for mod and fragment for fragment. So I had to rebuild it based off of memory. And I also made my own iterations on the build. Now, what is the theme of said build? Well, the theme is that it is virtually unkillable. So you would imagine that the quote-unquote unkillable hunter build would contain something like the gifted conviction, but you're wrong. You ain't seen nothing yet, because this build is on another level. This is one of those builds that 100% should be the meta, but nobody knows about it. So it's one of those hidden meta builds. So let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. So for the background gameplay, I'm going to do a bit of the Solo Master Nightfall. I probably could have done Grandmaster, just seeing as how easy Master was, but I'm no god gamer like Esoteric, so I wasn't going to take any chances. Anyway, you can still get an idea of how unkillable this hunter build is. So the idea of this exotic class item roll is to abuse Cyrtarachne's Facade so that using your grenade grants Woven Mail, which is a 45% damage resist, which lasts 10 seconds. And you'll quickly see that we can spam so many Duskfield nades that we can chain Woven Mail infinitely. I've had many times where I had 3 Duskfields on the battlefield at the same time. Like, it's really that spammable. This is easily one of the most ability spamming builds ever, and part of the reason why is because the other half of our exotic class item contains Heart of Inmost Light, which boosts our class ability regenerate whenever we use an ability. So that's how we have our never-ending 45% resist from Woven Mail. Then Facet of Protection is giving us another 15% resist because we'll always be surrounded with this build. But that alone is not enough, because the Gifted Conviction build can easily obtain that amount of resist and still have trouble surviving in the hardest content. So that's where the innovative half of this build comes in. And as a precursor to that, our primary weapon of choice is the multi-mock with attrition orbs and kinetic tremors, which can very easily make an orb when you mag dump with it. And if you don't have this roll, you can pick it up at Banshee because he sells it. But if you already picked that roll up and dismantled it, first of all, why? Second of all, I guess you can just substitute it for something like the Veiled Threat or Red Tape. And our special weapon of choice, which is going to be basically our primary, we're going to try to spam it non-stop, and that is the Versus Velocity Baton with Attrition Orbs and Demolitionist. And since this thing is an area denial grenade launcher that does a lot of damage over time, it goes absolutely crazy with Attrition Orbs, easily spitting out like 3 orbs per shot. Just watch our orbs generated on the bottom left and you'll see what I mean. Now, why do we care so much about these orbs? Well, not only are they contributing massively to our ability spam, more on that in a bit, but these orbs are actually our primary source of survival because we're rocking Facet of Purpose, which says picking up an orb will give us half of an overshield because we have a Void Super equipped. And you can see that in the gameplay loop. Shoot the GL, throw a nade to reload it with Demolitionist, shoot the GL, use our marksman dodge to auto reload it, and our dodge scoops up all the orbs around us because we have powerful attraction on our class item that grabs all nearby orbs when we use our class ability. These orbs give us overshields and proc Inmost Light, and quite literally it's just an endless ability spam overshield Woven Mail loop. All the while going invis for every kill because we have Stylish Executioner that makes us invis for defeating a target that's affected by an elemental debuff. And if you're curious how we're getting our dodge back so stupidly fast, it's because our other aspect is Winter's Shroud. Now this is how my build differs from Esoteric's, because Esoteric's had Gunpowder Gamble. Invincible, which is also a good option because it doesn't consume any ability charge when you use it, and it procs Inmost Light for free, and it also counts as a nade, which auto-reloads your demolition as GL. But I went with Winter Shroud for the dodge spam, because in addition to slowing nearby targets when you dodge, it has a secondary ability people tend to forget about that says slowing targets boosts your dodge cooldown. So between that and our shurikens and our endless Duskfield spam, we're spreading so much slow that everything is just boosting the heck out of our dodge cooldown, on top of the endless empowerment from Inmost Light. And we also have enhanced Volatile Marksman, which is the artifact mod that says rapid void weapon final blows grant volatile rounds, and when you create volatile explosions, it grants class ability energy. So go into your Tome of Want, activate a ritual, and boost this thing. So with all of these things combined, that's how we're able to reliably abuse powerful attraction and get free overshields every few seconds. And aside from the extreme survival that this build is themed around, it also has the theme of pseudo-infinite transcendence. This build is capable of building that transcendent meter faster than any build I've ever seen, and yes, that includes Prismatic Titans. Between your endless stasis ability spam and your endless velocity baton spam, you got everything you need to make your light and darkness energy just zoom to the max like there's no tomorrow. So next time you see me run out of transcendency, just watch my meter and you'll see what I mean. Now, I'm sure you can tell by the gameplay that this whole setup is basically a cheat code. Like I said in the intro, this should be the meta, but nobody knows about it. It's that good. And I definitely don't do the build justice. Esoteric used it better, but still, in the hands of an average player like me, it's still a cheat code. So if you're a Hunter player out there, you gotta give this build a try. And believe me, I would have put this build out months ago, but RNG was being horrible for me. Just a quick message to Bungie on this one. Please buff focusing. About 3 months ago, I focused Cyrtarachne at the Ghost and the Pale Heart to try to get this roll, and since then, I bought about 30 exotic class items at Xur over the months, and it didn't drop until yesterday. That's why this video had to wait so long. The RNG is absolutely atrocious, and in my opinion, the perk you focus at Ghost should be guaranteed to drop, instead of it being a chance system. I shouldn't have to spend like 1,000 strange coins to get the roll I want, because that's kind of crazy. Anyway, back on topic of the video. In the gameplay, my exact build wasn't even optimal. I actually made some adjustments after doing that gameplay, so it could have been better. One such notable change is to my heavy weapon. I was using the Anarchy, which is good, don't get me wrong, and after this episode ends, the Anarchy is probably what you're going to want to use, but in this episode, we can actually use a machine gun to abuse the heavy ordnance regeneration artifact mod, which says that sustained damage with your machine gun boosts your nade and melee regen, which is just icing on the cake for this build, but most importantly, it gives you a 2x resist buff for a whopping 15 seconds, which is another 25% damage resistance, stacking on top of the aforementioned Woven Mail and Facet of Resistance, but also in some cases Transcendence, which provides another 15% resist, and also Amplified, which just got a rework in episode Heresy to give you another 15% resist and make enemies less accurate towards you. So we're just stacking these damage resistances through the roof here. And some of you might be curious how we're gonna get Amplified, because we ain't rocking Ascension. So to get Amplified, we're rocking the Thunderlord as our heavy of choice. Now once again, I used Anarchy in the background gameplay. It was a mistake, you should use the Thunderlord. It just got a rework in episode Heresy so that hitting a target with the lightning strike that it generates on sustained damage will also grant you a stack of Bolt Charge. But just as an FYI, it doesn't grant Bolt Charge on the lightning strike it creates on final blows. It's only the one it creates on sustained damage, so use it versus chunkier targets. And the way Bolt Charge works is that when you have at least one stack, subsequent weapon damage will continue to charge more stacks. And you know what's really, really good at charging Bolt Charge stacks? Area denial grenade launchers, such as the Versus Velocity Baton. How convenient. And that brings us to the artifact mod Flashover, which not only buffs the lightning strikes that Bolt Charge creates, but it also makes you amplified when you reach maximum Bolt Charge. And that gives us that 15% resist and makes enemies less accurate towards us. And just when you thought we had enough survival shenanigans, it doesn't even end there, because we have the Fragment Facet of Solitude, which severs enemies on rapid precision hits, which triggers really fast with our Multi-Mock and our Thunderlord, and severing a target will reduce their damage output by 40%, but then we have the Disruptor Spike artifact mod, which improves the effects of Sever, lowering combatants' damage output even further. I do not know by how much, but if anyone knows, let me know in the comments. So we're going to do a quick test here against Carl just so you can see how tanky we generally are with this build. So with no buffs whatsoever, he shreds us with his minigun in just a couple of seconds. But when I proc that enhanced Sever on him with Facade of Solitude with my Thunderlord, which also procs that resist ×2 from our artifact mod, and then I throw a nade for Woven Mail, suddenly we have like a million resist and we become a bullet sponge. And keep in mind that this is without Transcendence or Amplified, so we technically could be even tankier than this. So with all of that resist and the endless invis and overshields, that's how this build is so godlike. Now let's break down the rest of our build, starting with our mods. One such change I made, different from the background gameplay, is I added Special Finisher instead of Bomber, because our GL is so important that I just wanted to make extra sure that I can spam it infinitely. And at the insane rate we're generating orbs, you can easily perform special finishers whenever you want and not have to skimp out on grenade kickstart on our gloves. And because of our ridiculous amount of orbs, we can abuse the heck out of our boot mods like Absolution and Innervation and Recuperation to feed us a boatload of health and ability energy. And from the top down, we have Void Siphon on the helmet along with double heavy finders, but you can swap these out to double special finders if you wish. And then we got Impact Induction and a Void Loader for our GL on our gloves, Triple Resist on the chest, and Reaper on the class item. But there is one small optimization you can make here under certain circumstances, and that circumstance is Barrier Champions. Stasis spam alone can deal with overloads and unstops, but what happens when we need to deal with the Barrier Champion? Well, we have three options here. One, you can run Facet of Dawn to become Radiant when you get a hit with the powered melee, and that gives you free anti-barrier rounds. Option 2, you can run a sidearm instead of multi-mock, since we do have anti-barrier sidearm this season. And option 3, which is what I would personally do, is you can replace the Thunderlord for the Deterministic Chaos, which just got an overhaul recently to have intrinsic anti-barrier. And this weapon also takes advantage of our artifact mods, including the free Volatile from Volatile Marksman. And if you run the Deterministic Chaos, then that means you're rocking 2 Void weapons, and that means you should replace one of the resists on your chest with 1 copy of Void Reserves to compensate. So just keep this in mind if you gotta deal with Barrier Champions. Now for the rest of our fragments, we didn't go over yet. We got Facet of Balance for some free nade and melee energy here and there, and then Facet of Hope as yet another way to boost our dodge cooldown while we have an elemental buff, aka Woven Mail. And that about does it for the build. Gameplay loop, you're looking at it. GL nade, GL dodge, GL nade, GL dodge. Just repeat the loop and transcend whenever you feel like it. And if there's any tanky dudes, take that as an opportunity to get Bolt Charge and Resist online with your Thunderlord. And that's about it. So as always, I'll leave a dim loadout link to the build down below in the description, and also the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. And if you got anybody who are Hunter mains, I'd appreciate if you share the video with them. Perhaps this is something they might want to try out. I cannot recommend this build enough. This is one of the strongest Hunter builds I've ever used, and that's not an exaggeration. It seriously just does not die. And especially if you're a solo player, this is a build you should have in your arsenal because it will definitely carry you. So that's going to do it for the video. Once again, shout outs to Esoteric. And I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit the like button as it helps out a ton. And if you are new here, would love if you stick around for more and hit that subscribe button, as we got a lot of juicy content on the way with Act 2 and Guardian games dropping next week. So be on the lookout for that. And remember to check out our sponsor, Advanced GG. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off your order. Link down below. And I will catch you in the next video. See you later.